And we're back with Before You Buy, the show where we give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions. Today we're doing Mario Maker 2 on the Nintendo Switch. I'm Falcon, and I have to say this is not a normal review because it's not a normal game. I mean, it's not the first of its kind, of course, but if we were doing this back when the Super Nintendo happened and we tried to make a Before You Buy for Mario Paint, obviously it'd be pretty different than a Before You Buy of, say, Judgment. So, Mario Maker is exactly what it says it is. It's a means to make Mario levels. And it's a big improvement over the Nintendo Wii U original version of this game because it includes a lot more parts of what you might consider a Mario level. But before we get into any major discussion about that, let's just cover some of the basics. When you start up Mario Maker, you have two options, make and play. We're obviously going to focus on make first because that is the purported main purpose of the game, to make Mario. And when you start up the game, you get a tutorial about exactly how to do that. The tutorial is given to you by a human woman and a bird. You may be familiar with this mode of information delivery, and I think it was a good choice on Nintendo's part as a bird, myself, delivering information to gamers. Finally, some representation, right? Anyways, the tutorials do a great job of explaining not only the basics, but some more advanced stuff, and this one is definitely a more advanced Mario Maker than the previous iteration. But just as a quick once through, up at the top of the screen, you'll see the various items. You can pick from them, place them in the level. Deleting is very simple. You just press the L or R shoulder button and tap the thing you placed. That's it. Then you press L or R again and you're back into everything else. You have literally bays and bays of items. It is so much more extensive than the previous Mario Maker, and they really do deserve a lot of praise for this because these things work in pretty much all forms of Mario levels except for the new Mario 3D Land levels, which have their own exclusive items that make them necessitate being cordoned off, which I think is fine, and I actually really enjoy these levels, so really not a problem. Placing stuff is super easy, designing is very easy, creativity is not super easy, but they even give you some tutorials for that. Here is where I have to interject what I would call essentially my only real fundamental criticism of this game. Now, this is distinctly different in one major respect from the Wii U version in that on the Wii U, the touchscreen was never not an option. The controller on the Wii U had the touchscreen, and you made Mario Maker levels using a touchscreen, even when you were on TV. Now, this, honestly, is met with a huge limitation on the Nintendo Switch. This is going to be the main criticism I have for when you're making these levels using a Pro Controller or the Joy-Cons as a controller on the TV. Making levels is vastly superior with the handheld Switch doing it on a touchscreen. There's almost no reason to do it on the TV if you have done it that way. I started with it on the TV, and after a little bit of time trying to play with it, I had the thought, maybe I should go back to the touchscreen on account that's how the original was, that's how the game was kind of designed in the first place, and the control scheme of switching between the analog stick and the D-pad to control different parts of it, like scrolling through the menus and placing items. It's basically handled by either using the D-pad or the analog stick, and I really do not like that. Because the cursor functions as a cursor, you expect the cursor to act like a mouse regardless of what you're using to do the input with. So when you switch from the D-pad to the analog stick and suddenly you're in the menu by accident for the 900th time, it's really irritating. And I do hope that later on there's like a patch that allows for more just cursor-like behavior. But if I'm gonna be honest, that's pretty much the only thing wrong with the entire game. And it's easily alleviated by doing all of your making without docking the Switch. That's it. That's all you have to change. And it may be a little bit annoying, but as you're making the level, I promise you, you'll be like, yeah, this was the right choice. Playing the levels, do it on your TV. It's great. It's phenomenal even. I am not going to entertain the idea that I am good at making Super Mario levels. I made one that I like because it's kind of super simple but yet a bit complicated. But that's the only one. I made several others and I think they're outright bad, so we're not going to bother with those. But I do want to pivot here to talk about exactly what you actually get in this package more than just the ability to make Mario levels, because if you're anything like me, that's going to be something that you develop over a long period of time. Or maybe not at all. I don't know. I certainly won't make levels as creative as the ones that we're about to discuss, but that's exactly what I want to discuss. Now, first, there is a story mode that contains over 100 levels. The story mode isn't like a real story. It's about rebuilding a castle. It kind of shows you a lot of the mechanics that the game is capable of, which is cool and I think a good idea. And in a lot of respects, I found myself very drawn into the levels designed for the story mode. I will most certainly finish the story mode. But what we're really talking about as far as the value of Mario Maker for somebody who is not great at making Mario levels, it's this absolutely amazingly arranged repository of incredibly creative Mario levels, all of which are beatable, because you can't upload it if it's not beatable. Now, I'm sure there will be exploits. I'm sure that this is stuff that will happen, but there's a rating system, there's a reporting system, and so far it seems really promising because I haven't come across anything I consider to be unbeatable, maybe very hard, but part of the difficulty lies in the fact that these levels are using a lot of the systems that Mario Maker 2 implements, such as win conditions, specifically, to make more difficult levels that require more creativity to beat. In my mind, the infinite number of Mario levels that are ranked categorically by rating, you can look for new ones, you can look for the top creators, browse any person's collection of uploaded levels and play them. I've found more than a couple that way that I thought were just absolutely phenomenal. And I particularly like the ones that are difficult to figure out, and then once you've figured them out, they're difficult to actually execute because of timing requirements and highly specific win conditions, like this one that I tried forever to beat by a user by the name of Nor139 from Japan, called Contradiction. I got so involved in this because it took me forever to figure out, and then it took me forever to execute. And this is the kind of thing that's just like super fun, super interesting, and I am among 3.56% of the people who attempted this level who beat it, and it was really satisfying in every way to have done that. And even though these creators are not necessarily professionals in any way, there's some more magic element to finding levels made by normal, everyday people that are a real challenge that you're able to do. There's just something different about that than playing levels that were created by Nintendo, even though Nintendo makes phenomenal levels. They obviously created Mario. The Mario series is full of just absolutely creative, amazing levels. But there's just another element of sort of interaction that I feel is hard to really describe, but is very present here. And I think just makes it more interesting in some ways, not necessarily more fun, but there feels like a kind of added sense of recognition that it is a creation by another person, especially understanding how to create yourself. In some ways, I think Mario Maker kind of brings you to think about and respect the people who not only make the levels in this game, but also who make the levels for official Nintendo releases, whether they be the 3D levels that we aren't really discussing in this game, like the Mario Odyssey levels, for instance, or the levels that are just, in theory, built very similarly to the ones that you're making here. I'm talking pretty specifically about how things are made in video games all the time, but I'm not often asked to make them myself, and here I am, doing just that, as well as playing the creations of others. There's something just inherently satisfying in that, and I really enjoy the hell out of Mario Maker 2. It's wonderful. It takes something that should seem kind of a professional thing, like there's a lot of people whose jobs are literally to make video game levels, and basically lets anybody do it. And that's great. If only more things in life were like this, right? If that prospect sounds interesting to you, of course buy it. Like, this isn't a title to avoid, it's wonderful. But what do you think? Have you played Mario Maker 2? Leave us a comment, tell us what you think. And if you like this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, Now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time, right here on gameranx.